Hey guys, I am DC, your host of Barside Jive Live, and I am not in the studio this evening. No vocal media headquarters for me on this Tuesday. You see, it's Christmas Eve, and I, like everyone else, or most, are at home. I'm at home enjoying some downtime, time with family, time with friends, and celebrating, my belief anyway, the birth of Christ and the gift of eternal life that was made possible through his sacrifice. Now, in just a few minutes, I'll be bringing you a very cool show we recorded for you just a couple of weeks ago, just so we could broadcast it on this very special occasion. This particular show features singer-songwriter Paul Averitt, who is the Roger Daltry of Who's Best, Dallas-Fort Worth's tribute to The Who. Paul and I had such a great time during the shooting of this episode, both on and off camera. So without further delay, here it is. I hope you guys enjoy it. Welcome back one more time. I am DC, your host of Barside Jive Live. Production tells me we have a lot of viewers this evening, so I'm totally excited that you guys chose to hang out here with us for tonight's show at our very cool new home here at the Vocal Studios in North Dallas, Texas. This show features some of the very best singer-songwriters in the United States of America. Keep in mind that you can download my shows on iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you are listening to this episode as a podcast, you can watch it right now by going to vocalnow.com and click on Barside Jive's image at the top of the app or at the top of your browser. Or at any time, you can watch my content on demand on my YouTube channel at youtube.com, Barside Jive Live. Barside Jive is sponsored by
The Zoo.
On Vocal.
That would now be the world's best rock and can be streamed 24/7, 365, once again at vocalnow.com. And guys, remember, vocal is spelled with a K. Should I say it's misspelled with a K? But it makes us different, and that's what the Zoo does. It stands out. It's different. Because Zoo Freaks get classic rock, deep cuts, B-sides, last tracks, stuff you're never going to hear on an FM radio station. Plus, the big thing here is you can avoid all those back-to-back boring commercials. Be sure to check out my merch. DC has merch. I've got tees and hoodies available at bradjensenart.com. That would be Brad, Jensen, art.com. Click on DC's gear when you get there and buy away. My guest today is Paul Averitt of many projects, but the one we're focusing on today is Dallas-Fort Worth's tribute to The Who, Who's Best. The band was talked about for years, they say, between various likely culprits, but ultimately was formed with the best of intentions and in a general spirit of camaraderie betwixt local musician friends that shared a love for The Who and all their material. So Paul Averitt, vocals, guitar, and harmonica, summoned the help of his friends Eric Neal and Michael Richardson for guitar duties, and Big Mike brought in Jerry Saraceni on drums and Kurt Young on bass. Paul wouldn't do the gig without his buddy Bobby Hoke on keys. The band was given the ultimate finishing touches with the addition of Steve Luthi on keys, guitar, trumpet, and Rusty Hall on guitar and trombone. The band's first show was at the famous Granada Theater right here in Dallas, Texas, performing the entire Who's Next album live. They have since performed the rock opera Tommy as well, and look forward to other operas and albums recited in the hallowed venues around Texas and beyond. So let's welcome Paul Roger Daltry Averitt to the show. Hey, Paul, thanks for coming by, man.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
It's awesome finally getting you in.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we were scheduled way out, and thought the day was never going to come, but it finally did. The Who, I grew up, Zeppelin and the Who and all those legendary bands, and love all the Who's music, and so I was really excited to hear what you guys were doing. And although I haven't made a show yet, I'm committed to making one soon. In fact, I may be making one next Saturday. As a matter of fact, a short one, but
yes.
I may make that. I guess that's something we can talk about too, right? That
Sure. I mean, by the time this airs, it will have already happened. But the Who have put out a new album.
Right.
It's their first album in, I think, 17 years.
Right.
And
wow.
And we're
17
playing
years.
it Good Records to commemorate the release of the album.
Wow.
And we're also gonna collect some money for the Teen Cancer Trust, which is the organization that the Who champion is their cause.
Okay.
So we're gonna collect money for that as well. We've already let Pete know that that's going on, and he's very
supportive.
Supportive of our endeavors in that direction.
Wow,
yeah.
How cool. So you've rubbed elbows a little bit with Mr. Townsend.
A little bit, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Through my friend Bucks Burnett over at 14 Records.
Right.
Bucks has known Pete for many years. Bucks was roommates / butler to the late great Ronnie Lane.
Wow.
From the Small Faces, and
right.
of course Ronnie and Pete were very good friends.
Yeah.
So they wound up having a friendship for many years and have known each other for a long time. And in fact, Bucks has the distinction of having come up with the name of the new Who album.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, Bucks actually named the album Who.
Wow, just Who.
He sent that idea off to Pete, emailed Pete, and Pete emailed back about 15 minutes later, said, "That is an excellent idea. I'm going to run it past Roger.
Right.
The only thing that would kill it is either Roger doesn't like it, or we've got Peter Blake doing the artwork for the album.
Oh.
If for some reason his artwork doesn't work with
Right.
the concept of that being the title,
Right.
then we'd have to go with something else." But
Right.
turned out it worked out perfectly, and Bucks named the new Who album.
Wow. Isn't that cool?
Isn't that something?
That is something, man. Wow.
So anyway, I've known Bucks. He and I have been best friends for years, and we've been backstage to many Who shows and wound up getting to hang out with Pete. 3 or 4 years ago at Madison Square Garden, immediately after a Who show.
Wow.
And he's a nice guy.
Throughout the years, I've heard all these stories about Pete Townsend, and who knows which is right and wrong, correct or incorrect. So, do you mind just sharing a little bit about your knowledge about the guy and
not a problem.
Insight?
He is infamous for being difficult at times.
Yeah.
Pete's a human being like anybody else.
Right.
He really is.
My ex-wives will tell you that I've been a little difficult at times.
We all can be, yes. But Pete, he for many years has dealt with depression issues and things of this sort that sort of make him a bit irritable at times, a bit difficult, and he's very aware of it and writes about it openly in his biography.
Right.
So it does it does tend to be a bit of a roll of the dice as to which Pete you're going to get at any given moment.
Right.
Fortunately, the moment that I had with Pete was fantastic. The photo that Dallas's own William Schneider took of Pete and I backstage and Bucks. Pete's just got his arm around me like we've been best friends for years.
Forever.
And just as chummy as we could possibly be.
Right.
And he was a really sweet guy. He was very nice. He was
Wow.
It was a good thing. So because honestly I was really concerned. I was like, am I going to get the good Pete or the bad Pete? But there's also our friend Binky Phillips was with us as well,
Right.
who's known Pete since the late '60s.
Right.
And Binky said, you know what? If you get the bad Pete, or if you get the Pete that tells you to, get lost or
hit the road,
or anything like that, he said it really just means that he feels tight enough with you and good enough about you that he can give you that sort of a razzing. So he said it's kind of a badge of honor.
Right. Okay, cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Man, it's so awesome that you've gotten to have that experience.
Yeah. Very cool, and we've been backstage many times, but that was the moment where we actually got to hang out with him and spend some decent time with him, and it was a lot of fun.
Wow, yeah, that's really awesome. All right, Paul. So let's talk a little bit about the makeup of Who's Best.
Okay. Well, we've got some great guys. When we originally started putting the thing together, or talking about it anyway. And this was years ago, we had a few different people in mind. And it was in the talking stage for a while, and then no one could get their schedules together to where we could even get together to rehearse.
Right.
So it just sort of fell apart. But I still had the idea in my head of, man, that would be a really cool project. That'd be a fun band to put together.
And you've been thinking this for 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5
right?
years, yeah, absolutely. And then after a while, I really got the desire to put the thing together completely because, I'm getting older and that stuff's not easy to sing, and vocally I've got to be careful and not bite off more than I can chew. So I really felt like it's time to put this thing together.
Yeah.
So I got a hold of Eric Neal, who was originally going to play bass when we first talked about this thing.
Okay.
And through the years, whenever we'd see each other, I'd say, man, we're going to do it. We're going to do Tommy at the Granada, because that's what he really wanted to do. That was his thing.
Bucket list.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to do Tommy at the Granada. It's going to be awesome.
Right.
And so I got a hold of Eric, and I said, man, I really want to make this thing happen. He said, well, honestly, I'd really rather not play bass. I'd really rather play guitar. I said, well, I'm down for that. You're amazing, and you would do a really good job with it. So sure, of course.
I want to be Pete.
Yeah, whatever. He wants to be Pete.
Right.
I said, no problem. He said, but I just don't have the time. I really don't have the time right now. I said, well, dude, I've got to make this happen, but I don't want to do it without you, but I've got to do it. So you're going to force me to talk to Big Mike about this.
Right.
Is what's going to happen.
Right.
And he was like, well, if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. So I went and talked to Big Mike.
Uh-huh.
And Mike was like, dude, I'm down.
Right.
I'm down. Let's do it. Let's do it. So then I went to Eric and I said, I went and talked to Big Mike, and Big Mike's going to play guitar. And he was just like, sure. Okay, I've got to do it too. I was like, oh, so now I'm going to have 2 guitar players. He's like, well, you kind of need 2 guitar players for a lot of this stuff. I'm like, that's actually true.
Right.
And that's wound up being an absolute blessing, because to do this stuff properly, you really do need 2 guitar players.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to take on that role.
Right.
I really wanted to just get up there with the microphone, not necessarily trying to be Roger Daltry, but just having that feel,
Right. Right.
So it wound up working perfectly, because the 2 of them are just so obsessed with Who music, just individually.
Right.
And then you put the 2 of them together, and it's just explosive.
Yeah.
So that's how those guys came in. And then Big Mike was the one who said, hey, man, I've got a rhythm section in mind, because I was really mulling over. It's like, man, talk about hard people to find. A John Entwistle and, and a Keith Moon. I mean, you're asking a lot. So it was Big Mike that said, dude, I think we should bring in Jerry Saraceni. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't have, I mean, because, I know Jerry from doing the Steely Dan stuff and all the Grateful Dead stuff. So no, man, he's a huge Who devotee. I was like, well, yeah, let's get together. So the first time I ever did anything with any of these guys Who related, it was myself on bass, Big Mike on guitar, and Jerry on drums. It's the first time I'd ever met Jerry.
Oh, okay.
I had seen him play, but I'd never met him.
Right.
And we got upstairs in my friend Jeff Coleman's music room at his house and just ran through a bunch of stuff just for the hell of it. And it was so much fun. And he was so great. I was like, this is going to be a lot of fun. And then Mike brought in Kirk Young on bass, who's just a solid, he's such a great guy and a solid player, and just love him to death.
Yeah.
So he brought Kirk in. I said, I'm not doing this without Bobby Hoke, because I've done so many projects now with Bobby. We've got the Revolution 9 band that we do, which is the generic 60s thing.
Right. Great band. Great project.
It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
So,
good music.
So we do that. He allows me to be in the Thin White Dukes thing that he does, which is the Bowie band.
Right.
Which is an awful lot of fun. I love doing that. And then we've done all these special projects together. The All Things Must Pass show that I did with Big Mike and Chris Holt and Chad Stockslager.
Right.
Bobby was a huge part of that. He was part of the Harry Nilsson show that I did at the Kessler way back, 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So Bobby's just been a real
fixture.
He's a staple. I call him the mad scientist.
Right.
And so had to bring Bobby in, and he was really excited about that. And then when we got together to talk about the first show, we said, it'd be great to have some horns. And for those tunes, because it's like once you get that blast of a trumpet and a trombone, it just brings everything up a notch.
Oh yeah.
So we said, okay, well, Steve Luthie's a great trumpet player and a great keyboard player and a great singer, and and my buddy Rusty that plays bass in Revolution 9, Rusty Hall, he's a great trombone player. In fact, he and Steve went to school together up in Oklahoma.
Oh,
so
really?
They were familiar with each other and playing horns together anyway.
That's cool.
So that wound up rounding out the band, and it's a huge 8-piece band, which is very hard to book.
Oh yeah.
So there is that issue. But man, when you get those 8 guys together on a stage and we start blasting away, it's so much fun. And what's really amazing about this particular group of guys, they're all pros.
Yeah.
And with those guys, you can assign the parts. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And those guys do their homework.
Right.
And they come in prepared.
Yes.
So that we're not wasting everybody's time.
Right.
That's a huge element.
Yeah. Right.
So it helps a lot. And everybody's just a great person to hang out with. So as well as making this amazing music and working really hard on it, this stuff is not easy. We have so much fun just hanging out together. It's a beautiful thing. I couldn't have asked for a better group of guys.
Well, there is a lot of video that I've had the pleasure of watching of you guys at a Granada show, thanks to Michael in Swaste Javier at Jam Magazine. He provided me a shit ton of video that you guys have.
He was right up front that whole show.
Yeah.
I saw his smiling visage the whole show.
Very talented guy.
Yes.
And he captured some good video. And from this video, I've just realized there is no substitute for Who's Best when it comes to great Who tribute bands. So let's give them a little bit of substitute. How about it?
Sounds good.
Okay, here we go.
We're off to a smashing start. Thank you so much. Welcome to Who's Best. It's our very first show. Thank you for being here at the lovely Granada Theater. I maybe ought to change guitar. Well, fuck it. So The next, we're going to carry on with a couple of tunes, select hits from The Who. The very first one is The Who's very first number 4. It's a song called Substitute.
I love that song.
Guys, that was Who's Best right here on Barside Jive Live, and I am with Paul Averitt. He is the Roger Daltry of that band, and having a good time chatting with him. And, you know, I'm curious, Paul, how does it make you feel to be the Roger Daltry in that band?
Well, you know, I'm used to, in all the groups that I've ever really been in, I've always been, as well as the singer or a singer, always been used to being the guitar player as well. Or needing to play a keyboard part or some sort of percussion thing or whatever. But that's always been my role, and that's always the way I feel comfortable. Never been the type to just stand up there in front of a bunch of people with just a microphone.
Right.
That's antithetical to what I do. But I get up there with those guys and with that music, and all of a sudden it's very liberating. It's very freeing that I don't have to focus on any of that, and I can just focus on the vocal thing. Because, and I've always told people that any guitar playing or keyboard playing or anything that I've ever done, in my mind, for my whole life, it's always been in service of or to accompany myself while singing. The voice has always been my primary instrument.
Right.
And so it's fun to kind of let all that stuff fall to the wayside and really just focus on the vocal performance and try to make that as powerful as it can be, seeing as this music takes a lot of power in a lot of ways. It takes a lot of emotional weight. It takes a lot of stamina vocally. It's not easy stuff to pull off in a lot of ways. So it's really liberating to be able to just stand up there with just that microphone and just belt things out, you know, because I've always loved being a belter, you know.
Right.
So it's great to stand up there and just love rain on me. It's great.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Right, right. Do you feel kind of a connection with Daltry?
Not necessarily. I do appreciate his role in the band. I mean, he started the band. It was really kind of his band, and still, in a lot of ways, it still sort of is. He is he's the driving force in the band. A lot of people assume that it's just Townsend's thing because he's the primary songwriter.
Right.
That's not actually true. And if you listen to Pete's demos, whenever he writes the songs and demos them in his home studio, if you listen to those, they are a lot of times very far removed from what the final product wound up being, especially in the vocal vicinity. Roger will take things and he'll alter melodies. He will change the pronouns on you. He'll rework things and edit things to where he sees it going.
Right.
And a lot of times those can be huge changes that
yeah.
really make the difference in how that song comes across to an audience. So he's a much larger part of the Who sound than I think a lot of people realize.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do kind of have a kinship with him on the whole, you know, he's from Shepherd's Bush, working man. You know, he's from you know, not too posh an upbringing. You know, kind of the working man striving for something better for himself. That's I can kind of identify with that. You know.
Right.
So.
Well, I would feel that, you know, you're singing their music, you know, and you're in front of a considerable size audience, and there's got to be some kind of, you know, feeling or connection, because you're experiencing what he experienced early on.
Right. I mean, if you're talking about musically, there's an emotional connection. There's an emotional kinship that happens whenever you get up there and sing something like Song Is Over or Getting in Tune. Or, I mean, these songs are they've got such emotional weight to them that no matter who you are, if you're up there really giving an honest performance of that tune, you can't help but feel it.
Right.
It's really magical.
Right. Right. Well, let's play them another one.
All right.
Do you have a preference?
What have you got?
Bob O'Reilly.
That's a good one.
Bargain.
Bargain's a great one. Bargain is not an easy song to sing. Man, the best I ever had, and to hold it.
Right.
That's not easy.
Well,
let's see what happens.
Let's show them what you can do.
And when we did this show, I was actually having some serious vocal difficulties because we did that show in January, and it was freezing.
cold.
And the whole rehearsal process for that show, we were rehearsing in this large warehouse where the Grateful Dead guys rehearse and where the New Bohemians rehearse, and we rehearsed there as well. And it's a warehouse, and it's not heated.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm breathing in this cold air, and my voice doesn't react well to cold air. So
Paul.
I was having vocal difficulties anyway for this show. So it's a miracle it came out the way it did.
All right, so let's show them the best of who's best right here on Barside Jive Live. Another great song by Who's Best. Coming at you live at Barside Jive Live here at the Vocal Media Studios. Man, Paul, that's some good stuff, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I'm totally excited.
Yeah, you know, looking at that footage, that being the first show that we ever played at the ever, but
Right.
Also our first show at the Granada, and that album, we did the entire album. Who's Next?
Right.
Did the whole album, and that album's got a really special place in all of our hearts. Anyway,
Right.
some of that material is so sacred to us and so hallowed that you can't help but standing there with this music around you, just, you know, nice and loud and just filling up that room, and that room's full of people that are also really getting into it.
Energy.
It's, you know, Townsend has a point when he says that rock and roll is all about the conversation that's going on between the band and the audience. That's what it's all about. And within that, we find a way, the musicians and the audience, we find a way of elevating each other into this higher spiritual realm,
Right.
than if we were just sitting there talking to each other
Right.
on a street corner.
Right.
He's got a point.
Oh,
you know?
yeah. It's a total soul connection.
It really is.
I mean, it's, people put aside all their different beliefs and they come together. There's a common theme going on.
Yep.
And it, like I say, I think it connects deep down inside the soul.
It does.
And that's awesome. You know, it just so happens that I've got the album cover, Who's Next? And I wanted to show it to you. There you go. And
There's an extra guy in there.
yeah, well, actually, the title track on this album, the title track is called "I'm Not Through Yet." Yeah.
Nice one. Nice
one. Yeah. So, but no, you guys are doing amazing things with this band, and I'm just excited to even be a little part of it by having you on the show.
Yeah, man.
I want to I don't want to expect you to give me a detail year by year, but I would like a little bit of a thumbnail sketch of how you got started in all this music thing that you got going on, because I know you're in a lot of projects. You're very talented vocally, your guitar work, everything that you do, keys, you're amazing. And I would just like to know where did the first little bit of it get started in your life?
Okay. Well, I started singing just, as soon as I could breathe, I assume. I had heard stories about me being put to bed as a child, like 4 or 5 years old, and they'd walk by my bedroom, and through the door they could hear me in there going, I'm singing to myself, you know. And, all right, son, it's time to go to sleep now. Okay, good night. And then they'd walk by an hour later, and I'm in there. So I've always been singing. That's always been my main thing, and listening to my mother's record collection and my uncle's record collection, and just soaking up all the Beatles and Stones and Who, and the Moody Blues were a huge player in my life, and then getting into the '70s stuff with all the Badfinger and all the stuff that I just really gravitate towards, and then later on getting into Cheap Trick and the Cars and all that great stuff. So that's always been there for me, just as a music lover and a music appreciator. But then I think it was 4th grade, 5th grade, something like that. I saw a presentation there in my school from the Texas Boys Choir.
Oh, wow.
And there's all these kids up there my age, and they're all up there singing together. And there's nothing I love more than vocal harmony. It's my favorite thing in the world. I'm a huge barbershop quartet fan. I just love that stuff.
Okay.
So
cool.
I heard that, and I just thought that is really cool. And then they said, we're always looking for boys to join the choir. So if you feel interested, just let us know. And
Right.
that's what I want to do. So I went and told my grandparents. I said that I really want to sing in that choir.
Right.
So I was in the Texas Boys Choir for 3.5 years. Was a soloist in the choir, and
Wow.
that was where my formal musical training came from.
Gotcha.
My classical training.
Right.
And then I just picked up the guitar from my uncle. My uncle Eugene played guitar, and always saw these mystical instruments laying around. I was like, somehow there's got to be a way to make that noise that I hear on the radio using this thing that's got these wires strewn across it.
Right.
So one day I hear him in there playing on Busy Miss Lizzie by the Beatles.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And he left. I went in his room and I found it on the record that he was listening to. I found the song. And I said, okay, those notes are on here somewhere. So I found them and I figured it out. And he came home and, oh, look, Paul's playing around with my guitar. I was like, no, listen. And I played it for him. I played the little
Right.
and he just went,
Wow.
let me show you a few chords. And that's where it all
Really?
took off.
And how old were you then?
7.
7.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's kind of where it all started.
Yeah. Well, your family, I guess he was musically inclined.
He was musically inclined. Nobody was a
No one
singer,
else?
though. It's weird.
Oh.
Nobody knows where my voice came from.
Really?
It's on both sides of my family. None of them were really singers.
Yeah.
And my brother doesn't sing. For some reason, I just was born with this thing.
Wow.
So it's just the way it is. Yeah, but there were people on my mother's side of the family that are very musically inclined.
Right.
My grandmother played piano. My mother played piano and violin and viola. And I started at violin at age 4. So I was playing violin at age 4, and then graduated to guitar at 7. Started playing piano, played a little bit of the drums, just whatever I could get my hands on.
Right.
And it just snowballs from there.
Yeah, music has literally been your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Have you done anything outside of music?
Not really.
Now, that leads me to present time.
Mm-hmm.
What's your day job now?
Well, officially I'm the product specialist for a company called Texas Guitar Ranch, which is a retailer in Bedford, Texas. We sell a lot of things online. It's a company that was started by my boss, Bobby Beeman, who was the bass player in a legendary Texas punk band called Stickmen with Ray Guns.
Oh, wow.
So Bobby was the bass player and primary songwriter in Stickmen. And he's been a music retailer for many, many years. And he's the best boss you could ever want in the world, and a great guy. And I've been working with him for about 6 years now. And
Wow.
it's great.
When you're trying to do as many music projects as you are, it's nice to have a boss that's
Yeah, absolutely.
understands
So
and
that
kinda
way,
in that same
right. Whenever I get, like my friend Terry Taylor from Daniel Amos, he's working on a solo record right now, and he wanted me to come and play bass on this record, so I needed to fly up to Washington State and spend 4 or 5 days up there working, recording these bass parts. And
Right.
so it's nice to have a boss like Bobby that understands
Yeah.
the situation. He's just like, yeah, you go and do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty great.
Was-
I'm blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's plug him a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So what's the location?
That's
Tell us a little bit about
Texas Guitar Ranch. We're over there in Bedford. It's on Harwood Road. We've got lots of basses, lots of guitars, drums, keyboards, lots of accessories, lots of horn accessories, and then lots of reeds and things like that. We do repairs, guitar repair.
Okay.
Lots of stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, we've got, if it's something that you need, we can, we've probably got it.
Right.
And can get it to you. But we also have a thriving online business. So we do a lot of sales through Reverb, a lot of sales through, let's see, a few things through Amazon, a few things through eBay.
Do you have your own website?
We have our own website.
What is that address?
TexasGuitarRanch.com.
TexasGuitarRanch.com.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Come see us.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Sure they will after hearing that.
Right on.
So I guess the first time I ever saw you, Paul, was you were performing, I think it was at Talbert's many, many years ago, Hard Nights Day.
Yeah.
And at that time, I think there were like 4 Beatles tribute bands.
Yeah, there have been
There's
quite a
bunch
few.
at
Yeah.
the same time. I mean, it's like Talbert's had a different Beatles tribute there every week.
Right. Yeah. Well,
Some weeks twice.
yeah. For a while there were quite a few bands. There were us, and there's Me and My Monkey in Fort Worth, who are dear friends of ours, and I love those guys with all my heart. And I do fill-in gigs for those guys sometimes. Sometimes Rodney needs to be somewhere else, and so they need me to come in, or Pete's sick or something, and so I'll go play bass for him or something.
Right.
But yeah, it's always fun getting to hang out with those guys.
Good.
And there was another group for a while.
There was a Glass Apple?
Glass Apple for a while.
Right.
And there was another one. What did they call themselves? Can't remember.
I know
to
there
save my
was.
life.
There was
My buddy, our buddy Christian Rios, who performs with us as well, and who performed with us when we did Abbey Road and Let It Be at the Granada. He was in that band. He was the bass player in that band. Anyway, so yeah, there were a lot of different bands at that time.
all doing Beatles.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of those, and there's others as well, but the good thing about A Hard Night's Day is its longevity. We've been around for 25 years.
Right.
Started at Club Dada down in Deep Ellum, and we played every Friday for 13 years straight.
Wow.
And that really built up the name, and everybody remembers the name.
Yes.
So that's a big part of our longevity, and yeah, we're still plugging away at it.
Yeah.
Still having fun.
Oh, yeah. Every time I walk into a different venue, and last time I think I saw you was, first time I saw you was at Talbert's, and last time I saw you was at Sambuca over in Dallas.
Yeah.
And just never know where I'm going to see you guys.
That's
But
right.
Yeah, that's amazing that
We
you
pop up
guys
all
have
over the
held
place.
that together all this time.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing.
And you're like just spot on.
Yeah, we try to get as accurate as we can to the record. That's the whole point.
Yeah, it's just so awesome.
It's
So
fun.
tell me, what is the craziest, the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you during a performance?
Oh, I tell people all the time that I hear crazy stories, and I think to myself, man, I must lead the most sheltered of lives. Another side to that is that I really, especially when I'm on stage, I try to stay away from things that are going to disrupt or things. I'm up there to do a job, and I want to be a professional and get the job done.
Right.
That's the whole thing. But
So you're that focused that you don't see
for the most part. Oh yes, I've learned to tune out
everything,
the audience completely.
Yeah.
A big part of that, making that happen, is playing for a whole decade with A Hard Night's Day with some guy dressed completely in tie-dye, dancing as outrageously as possible in front of you every show for 10 years. That kind of forces you to learn to just completely tune out the audience, and you're just there doing your job.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
Not
so.
easy.
No,
Not easy.
No.
But crazy things happen. It's subjective, I suppose. I've had microphones knocked into me from drunk people, falling over the monitors and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I've had more microphones to the face than I care to have. One even sent a tooth down my throat during a show. Yeah, so that was pretty weird.
Because of the microphone.
Yeah, somebody just some drunk person trips over the monitor and just, I don't see them coming, and they just slam into my mic stand.
Right.
And the mic just blam and just sends a tooth down my throat.
Wow.
Yeah. But that happens.
There's definitely some hazards in the business, right?
Yeah.
Well, I asked that question, and I know, you're the environment. You're in a bar,
Yeah.
right? You're late at night. There's going to be people that have had too much to drink, and so when you ask somebody a question that works in that environment, they're like, well, things happen all the time. But every once in a while, someone will tell us, crazy story that it's hard to believe, but
Right.
it does happen. And
Well, I'm also I'm not your usual bar musician person in that I don't drink. I don't make a big deal about it
Right.
at all because I don't
Right.
think it's a big deal.
Right.
But I don't drink and I never have. That's just not. It's a long story that we don't really need to go into. It has a lot to do with Johnny Cash. But anyway, because I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan.
Yeah.
But
okay.
anyway, boil it down to its essence. I've never been drunk. I don't drink. That's not my thing.
Right.
So I have nothing against it. I have nothing against anything. I say I'm one of those crazy guys that says legalize everything.
Right.
But it's just not for me.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
So being the sober person sometimes in the entire room,
Yeah, probably are.
it's pretty weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, trust me, I'm the tame one.
You feel outnumbered.
Oh yes. Which is probably a big part of why not a ton of crazy stuff has happened to me at gigs. It's
Right.
because I'm actually the one that's keeping my wits about me as much as possible anyway.
Right. Right. Well, on that note, what about a little Baba O'Reilly?
Oh, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Who's Best right here on Barside Jive Live.
So can I just give a shout out real quick
Absolutely.
to Eric Neal? Seeing Eric do that little switch and handle the violin part, that's one of the things that is great about having guys like Eric, is that he has the capacity, he has the chops to be able to do that.
Right.
Eric is one of those guys that he can play anything.
Yeah.
And what's really amazing, bringing Eric in as the guitar player, when he said, I want to play guitar, I was like, well, great, because you're a great guitar player. And you can play that violin part,
Right.
which would be fantastic.
Right.
So we knew that he had all that going on. When we first got together for our first rehearsal, the first song we worked on was Song Is Over. Which is a very spiritual.
Yeah,
it's a
good one.
There's a lot of meaning
Yeah.
to that song.
Right.
So we have that anyway, right? We've got the weight of that song and just how monumental and how epic it is.
Right.
And so the first thing that happens, you got the piano going. Bobby's playing the piano part, our first run through. And Eric steps up to the microphone, and I hadn't even thought about it up till that moment, right? But Eric's going to sing that Townsend part. Eric walks up and starts singing, "This song is over." And we all just went, oh my God. Because he's got that Townsend lilt
Yeah.
that is not easy to come by.
Right.
So he had that, and we finished that tune, and we were all just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
We've got something special
This
here.
is epic. Yeah.
And then when he shows up for that first gig and he's in that boiler suit and is actually singing that way and playing that way and really playing the part
Right.
physically on stage.
Right.
It's Eric Neal doing that. That's what makes it a Who show.
Right.
Is him. That role is so iconic and is
Crucial.
so essential. And he does such an amazing job of doing that.
Yeah.
I really have to give him credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
He is what really elevates the whole thing into the stratosphere.
Yeah. He's the glue that kind of ties everything
Yeah.
together. Yeah. You can tell, and he'd be hard to replace.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, everybody's essential.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't do this gig without Steve Luthi.
Right.
Couldn't do it.
Right.
What he does is so essential. What's so important. Big Mike. Big Mike is basically the musical director of the band.
Right.
Which I'm glad that he's there to do that.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? So, you get a guy, in like Big Mike that's like, I'm happy to do whatever, but I want everything to sound as good as it can sound.
Exactly.
But he doesn't have to take he's given away so many vocal parts and guitar parts to Eric because he's like, the Townsend guy should really be handling all of that. It's like, but you should have a chance to. He's like, no, that's not a big deal.
Right.
To be able to walk into a situation like that with that little an amount of ego
Yeah.
and say,
Yeah.
I want it to serve the show.
Yes. The overall project is what matters.
That's a professional.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And Mike definitely is.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about earlier, everything, and I've seen that guy touch. It's golden.
Yeah. He's
So
amazing.
I'm just really happy for you guys that you've got this group of guys, and they're all so much professionals.
Yeah.
And I just know this project can do some big things.
Yeah, we're the difficulty so far has been we're 8 guys.
Right.
And we're all busy in other things.
Right.
Eric and Steve both are really busy with Petty Theft, which is Mike Reiner's thing.
Right.
So they perform with that a lot. Eric's also he plays with Christy Kruger every once in a while. He's got a lot of different things that he does. And in fact, now he's the guitar player in the Thin White Dukes, which is the Bowie band that we have.
Yeah.
Eric is now the guitar player in Thin White Dukes.
Oh, okay.
Because Rob really needed some time off. So Eric has taken that on and is doing an amazing job with that. We'll be doing a gig at the Granada on January 4th for Bowie's birthday.
Oh, okay.
So Eric will be playing with that. It's a hard band to book because everyone's so busy. Big Mike is busy. Jerry plays with the Grateful Dead guys. Forgotten Space. He plays with them all the time. You know, Rusty's got tons of stuff that he does. He fronts a Bryan Adams thing called Summer of '69 that is really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And he's the Bryan Adams of that thing.
Oh,
so
okay.
he's got that going on. And Kirk is in
Forever Mac.
Forever Mac right now, which is really amazing. And, you know, Bobby is the leader of the Bowie band, Thin White Dukes.
Right.
He handles Liqueur. He's in Liqueur. He's in the Prima Donna band, the Madonna cover.
Yeah, with
he's
Adrian.
part of
Right.
He's part of that. He's in Revolution 9 with me. He's in the Who band. I mean, we're all really busy.
I don't know how you do it.
And then I've got Hard Night's Day and all the things that I do. So yeah, we're all really heavily booked as it is.
Yeah.
So trying to find time every once in a while to book a Who show,
Right.
where all 8 of us are available on a Friday or Saturday night, you can imagine the nightmare that causes.
Probably takes you months to figure it out.
I mean, we have to book things 6, 7, 8 months out in order to make something happen. So that's the difficulty with that band, which is why we only work a couple of times a year.
Right. Well, whatever venue gets you, they're lucky.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
We're having fun with it so far.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I'm sure the fans appreciate it because what I've heard is just amazing. Tell me real quick, Paul, what musicians throughout your life have been of most influence on you?
Well, there's John, Paul, George, and Ringo.
Yeah.
That's where it all starts.
Right.
I like my friend Binky Phillips tells a story of his daughter coming to him one day saying, "Daddy, I've got something I need to tell you. I don't know that you'll be happy about it." And he's like, "What's that, honey?" He says, I really like the Who, but I like the Beatles, but I think I like the Beatles better. And he had the best response. He said, "Honey, the Who are Daddy's favorite band, but the Beatles are the best band." And she smiled at that. She was like, "Okay,
yeah, that's good.
That's a good way to put it."
That's good.
So it all starts with those guys, of course. But the things that influenced me the most growing up. I listened to a lot of things. I was a huge Johnny Cash fan as a kid, and still am, of course. But I mean, the influences for me that are the most essential are the Beatles, the Who, Stones. The Moody Blues are huge for me.
Oh yeah.
I love XTC. They're one of my favorite bands in the world. You just can't get better songwriting than those guys.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Matthew Sweet fan. I love Elvis Costello. I'm a huge Frank Zappa fanatic.
Really?
Love Zappa.
Yeah.
I'm a big Devo fan. Stuff like that. I mean, I could go on and on. The Jam, Thomas Dolby, Todd Rundgren. Prince. I'm an enormous Prince fan. I could go on all day.
So why Johnny Cash?
My grandparents played me Johnny Cash when I was really young, and there was just something about that man's voice. No one else sounded like him, of course, and the things that he wrote about, and just the way he held himself, his presence.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, he's the voice of America.
Yeah.
And I just really loved Johnny Cash. And then one day I read in the back of my best friend's mother's station wagon. Don't ask me why she had me locked up back there. But anyway, I'm in the back of the station. That's right. It's a whole other story. And back for some reason, there's a comic book back there of the life of Johnny Cash, and we're talking like up to this is 1973, 72, 73 that I'm reading this. Mm-hmm. So it's a story of Johnny's life about how he's on the road and was taking drugs and getting drunk all the time, just try to get through the tours and all this, and his marriage fell apart and he didn't know what to do, and then he got sober, and he found Jesus, and he married June, and now his career's better than ever, and he's very happy, and he'll never touch drugs or alcohol ever again.
Right.
And I remember closing that comic book and saying to myself, if it's good enough for Johnny Cash, It's good enough for me, and that's why I've never drank or taken it. It's just not my thing. Just
Wow.
not a big deal.
I guess Johnny Cash has been the biggest influence on you.
Great big influence. And Brian Wilson the same way. I remember reading an interview in 87, 88 in Rolling Stone from Brian Wilson. And I remember
he's had struggles.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge Beach Boys fanatic.
Yeah.
I love the Beach Boys. So I'm really enwrapped in this interview. And at the end of it, the interviewer asked him, is there anything as you look back on your life so far, is there anything that you really regret? And it said he didn't even hesitate. He said, yes, drugs.
Yeah.
I wish I'd never taken them.
Right.
And I just closed that magazine. I said, it's good enough for Brian Wilson.
It's good enough.
Good enough for me. So,
Paul, I have so enjoyed our time together today.
Man.
This has really been a great experience. I've learned so much. And can't wait to have you back, man.
Well, thanks, man.
The
I
time
appreciate
has
it.
just flown by.
I know. It was a lot of fun.
It was great.
I appreciate it.
Picking your brain. But I want to make sure we share with the audience your contact information. So if someone wants to attempt to book Who's Best, they can make that happen.
Good luck making that happen. I wish you all the luck in the world. Well, you can always get a hold of us through our Facebook page. That's the best way to get a hold of Who's Best. You can always get a hold of just me. I have a Facebook page. There's a paulaveritt.com that you can get a hold of me through. And then there's also, I've got a Facebook page up for my solo stuff, which is Paul Averitt and His Associates. Is the name of that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's really the easiest way to get through to me is just send me some. I mean, I may not respond to it that day, but you'll eventually get a response, and we'll see if we can figure something out and get something booked.
Right.
But that's the best way to get a hold of us.
All right.
And yeah, just plan on it, being 6 months out.
Right. Guys, you heard it straight from Paul Averitt himself, and I really had a great time having him on today. Okay, guys, besides my Tuesday and Thursday 7:30 p.m. shows here at the Vocal Studios featuring music and visual artists, don't forget my show in the Dallas Design District on Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. 1523 Dragon Street is the address. We feature singer-songwriters and visual artists of all types on that show. And then my show every Friday at Outlaw Cider Company, 112 East Texas Street in historic downtown Grapevine, Texas, from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., where I feature, once again, musicians of all sorts. Be sure to check out my YouTube channel, where I archive all my content, youtube.com, Barside Jive Live. Remember that vocalnow.com, vocal with a K, is home to the zoo as well as Barside Jive. So download the Vocal Now app from your app store. Do it now. If you create music or some other form of art and would like to be featured on one of my shows, or maybe you would like to sponsor or advertise on a show, or maybe you just have an idea, maybe a comment, shoot me an email, dc@barsidejive.com. My show today has also been brought to you by Hip and Hippie. Hip and Hippie is a planet-loving company known for its high-quality, earth-friendly, 100% recyclable candle line and natural body care products. It's no wonder eco-supporting people love Hip and Hippie, hipandhippie.com. Want to thank Jay and Jimmy, our production team, for the hard work they have done this evening, as they do always. So, guys, we are out of here. Thanks again for hanging out with us this evening. I know Paul appreciates it as well as me. We do appreciate your support of what we're doing and hope that you'll share us with your friends and your followers. Until next time, we ask that you be kind to one another, keep it real, keep on rocking, and Paul, let's just give him one more.
Sounds good to me.
All right, here we go. How about some Pinball Wizard?
Sounds great. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Here we go.
Like
knew you'd like it. I really do hope you guys enjoyed that one. Such a great time with Paul Averitt in the studio. And who's best? Wow. Well, since it is Christmas Eve, I think that we should check in with my Barside Jive Santa tracker, made possible through NORAD. See where Santa really is. This is a live stream, so let's go now.
Okay, Control. I have an identification. You won't believe this. It's you-know-who. A very fat man who's dressed in red.
Okay, guys, we'll check back on Santa with my Santa tracker later this evening. Before I go, I would like to take a moment and send some thoughts and prayers to all of those who are in need, experiencing distress or loneliness, those that are experiencing loss or hunger, depression, or struggling in some way. Also to all of our military, emergency medical services, firefighters, police officers that are on the job so that all of us can be safe. Our thoughts and prayers are with you during this holiday season and every day. Okay, here it is. Merry Christmas to all of you, and I will see you very soon. Good night.
That's BarsideJiveLive.com.